Good morning, participants. Thank you so much for joining in. We'll wait for another 5 to 7 minutes for others to join in as well, and then we'll formally start off. Thank you so much. Good morning, all participants. Thank you so much for joining in. We'll formally start off. If at any point I am not audible to you, or if the screen is not visible, I've shared my screen. You can just write that down in the chat box and we'll stop and we'll try to fix the situation. My name is Mohsin Ashfaq Khan. I am a specialist for the Innovation and Women Ventures team in Karandas, Pakistan. On behalf of my organization, I would formally like to welcome you all to this workshop. This session has been organized primarily to provide prospective applicants clarity on what should be included in their business proposals for GCF, as well as to answer any questions the participants of this session would have regarding the Green Challenge Fund. The structure of this workshop is that there's going to be a 15 to 20-minute presentation followed by a question answer session, and I'll stay here until all queries have been addressed. So let me move forward. So this is the agenda for today. We'll be providing a very brief overview on the challenge round, followed by proposal submission guidelines, the presentation that has to be presented to the selection committee, evaluation criteria, the key dates that you need to remember, and the question and answer session. Again, I would like to highlight here as well, if you haven't followed our social media pages, please do on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. We provide most of our updates through those mediums. We put out a post where we stated that if you haven't submitted the expression of interest or the EOI, which was supposed to be submitted on the 17th, no worries, you can still send us your business proposals. You will still be eligible to submit your business proposal, for which the deadline is the 17th of November. But we'll go over the key dates shortly. So before I shed light on this challenge round, let me give you a very brief introduction on Karandas for those who are unaware. Karandas, Pakistan was established in 2014 with a mission to foster economic growth and create jobs through financial inclusion of unbanked and underbanked enterprises and individuals. We have two key sponsors, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, the FCDO, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, BMGF. Karandas essentially has four verticals. There's Karandas Capital, which is primarily focusing on wholesale financing and large equity investments. Karandas Digital, which is promoting use of digital payments, knowledge management and communication, which is producing research and knowledge products for internal and external consumption, and Karandas Innovation, which has two main components, the Women Ventures Program and the Innovation Challenge Rounds. So the Green Challenge Fund falls under Karandas Innovation. So as you can see, specifically for the Challenge Fund, we have one specific donor, which is UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO. A total of 8 challenge rounds have been conducted by Karandas since 2017, out of which 3 were women-centric and were later institutionalized to become a full-time program, which is the Women Ventures. We have 2 main components. Previous challenge round winners were usually financial institutions and fintechs, but however, given the nature of this year and last year's round, we have a more diverse range of applicants and awardees. So the first challenge round was launched in 2017, which focused specifically on international remittance. As I mentioned, 2017, 18, 19 also had women-centric challenge rounds. In 2018, there was a round for SME credit risk scoring model. 2019 focused on financial inclusion of women. 2020 focused on solutions for small distributor financing. And then 2021, which was ICF-6, or the first round of Green Challenge Fund, was last year, for which we had 5 awardees. So just to give you sort of more insight on what the solutions were that we selected and awarded last year, these are just some of the briefs of the solutions that we selected. So one of our awardees was Suftech Innovations. They're based in Lahore, whose solution focused primarily on de-inking and demetallizing plastics to produce virgin-like polymers, right? And their current installed capacity is around 800 recycling or upcycling 864 metric tons of plastics per annum. Then we had Concept Loop, which was essentially a partnership of 2 entities, 8 Loop Ventures and Open Door Design. Their solution focused on recycling plastics to make lifestyle products and furniture. Then we had another awardee, Davam Life, with a very interesting solution. Their proposal revolved around having a dispensing machine for domestic usage products to reduce single usage of plastic bottles. So you would take an existing plastic bottle or and then you can enter the amount of shampoo that you want or soap that you want, detergent, cooking oil, etc. And it will dispense out that amount of product. Taki you don't need to buy a new product every time. So these three focused on plastic waste management. The next two focused on efficient water management. These two, these were the two themes for last year's Green Challenge round. We had NRSP, National Rural Support Program, who is developing a climate smart irrigation for smallholder farmers, which is going to benefit almost 600 farmers. Then we had National University of Medical Sciences, NUMS, who is constructing a wetland and using bioremediation to treat industrial wastewater, specifically focusing on the sugar mills ka jo aapka pani aa raha hota hai, and just to treat that. So these were the two themes that we had last year. This year, we're expanding more. So we're focusing on 4 thematic areas. These are, again, like last year, efficient water management, plastic waste management, medical waste management, and improving air quality. So the third and the fourth theme are new this year. The main objective is to address the inertia on green transition projects and expand the spectrum of technologically driven innovative solutions and players engaged in combating climate change in Pakistan. Right. So here we're inviting green techs, corporations, not-for-profits, SMEs, financial institutions, or any formally registered entity or business working on the identified thematic area. So it's a very broad range of applicants. We haven't singled out or we haven't focused on a specific industry that we would want to solicit applications from. Just a very brief on the process flow and timeline. Stage 1 is basically focusing on solicitation of applications and the selection of partners. This covers the EOI stage, the submission of proposals, the presentation stage, and the internal selection of partners, right? So internally, as in Karandaz, apni advisory council ke through, jo select karega, this all is covered within the first stage. So Karandaz is expected to announce a decision regarding the grantees by December or early January. Depends on kitna jaldi ye process chalta hai and how quickly the internal selection takes place. The second stage consists of the chosen or selected awardees conducting market analysis and preparations and approvals of their business implementation plans, and will involve data collection, desk research of other countries and economies with similar proposals or mechanisms, structuring key partnerships, and mapping commercialization dynamics for their particular theme, and leveraging data flows to ensure robust risk assessment. So this will essentially allow the grantee or grantees to make improvements and modifications in their existing solution and to refine it further and make it more commercially viable. Right. The third stage will be the launch of the pilot. It will test or launch the solution, and it will refine its design and commercial plan according to the feedback of the pilot. The proposed solution will initially be tested on a limited sample for a period of 6 months or so and scaled up to a larger market in the remainder period. Applicants that have a tested technology may opt for a shorter pilot and subsequently focus more on scaling up of the solution. And finally, the last stage will consist of consolidating results and learning from the pilot and implementation stage. So the key takeaway from all of this is that the solution or the proposed solution, jo aap de rahe hoge, it has to have the capability of being scaled up. And number 2, it needs to be commercially viable. It needs to be more revenue-centric, revenue-making solution hona chahiye. So we're moving forward to the business plan submissions. Again, if you have any questions, we have a dedicated time slot for question answer sessions. So please reserve your questions till the end of the presentation. Thank you so much. So the technical proposal shouldn't be more than 24 pages, but if you're applying for more than one thematic area, if you want to apply for plastic and medical waste, or if you want to apply for water or air quality, you will have to submit separate proposals for each theme, right? The following are the sections that we want in our technical proposals. This should include the section 1 is your executive summary. Section 2 is the value proposition. What value are you bringing through your proposed solution? Section 3 consists of market analysis. Okay, what are the key factors that you have taken in our market key dynamics for which this solution is going to be great? Section 4 consists of green transition projects. What is your approach? What is your solution? Design and inception stage. Now we get into more specifics. Section 6 will have pilot testing strategy. Section 7 consists primarily of the applicant's profile. And in case of a consortium, if it's more than one entities coming in for one specific solution, then each entity will have to provide their applicant's profile and why they think their qualification is enough for the successful implementation of this solution. Section 8 focuses on the learnings that will be coming from the implementation of your solution. And section 9 consists of risk assessments. What risks do you forecast or see and you have taken into account for when you have developed your solution? Then this, along with the technical proposal, you're also required to submit a financial proposal. So the financial proposal should include a detailed budget covering the full duration of the proposed program. The funding amount will depend on the proposed solution. Jo aapka award hoga, it is primarily going to depend on the proposed solution. However, the challenge fund is aimed at piloting of new and scaling up of tested solutions and do not fund large scale projects. So you may say, okay, there's no floor or ceiling to the amount or of the award, but just know, okay, we're not funding mega scale or large scale projects. So the financial proposal needs to include the funds required for model development. This includes the cost of consultants, technical experts, data acquisition, etc. जिसके लिए जो आप अपने data collection या desk research के लिए अगर आप किसी को hire कर रहे हो for a consultant, it all includes this. Funds required for operationalizing this project. This includes costs related to project management, staff, procurement, hardware, software, travel, data collection, project monitoring, all of that. So if you're also hiring any additional staff to implement this project, all of this will be included under this specific head. And returnable funds required for piloting or scaling up the model based on the proposed testing methodology. Karandaz may also provide a risk cover specifically relevant to FIs, commercial banks, or NBFCs to commercialize the green technology solution. However, terms and modalities of the risk cover will depend on the proposed solution. Financial co-investment in commercializing the technology solution is encouraged. In addition to the above, a milestone-based disbursement schedule must be included. I'll go into more detail regarding this here in order to avoid any confusion. The funding or the award that an applicant, a successful applicant will receive will be in the form of tranches, right? So there has to be a very specific milestone-based disbursement schedule, which is linked to your tranches as well. So pehli tranche ke liye, we would require this deliverable, and against that tranche, these are the outcomes that we require, and these are the means of verification to check that outcome, and so on and so forth. Usually, the total award size is dispersed in 3 to 4 tranches. It can also be less, it could also be more, it depends specifically on the proposed solution. Moving forward, these are the annexures or the additional documents that we required, and these are all mandatory supporting documents. So copy of company registration or certificate of incorporation, professional licenses where applicable, copy of your national tax number, NTN, audited financial statements of all consortium partners if you are entering into a consortium for last 2 years. If you do not have audited financial statements, we would require management accounts for the last 2 years, a letter of intent in the case of consortium, where the lead entity and the other partners will have to provide the letter of intent to participate with the lead entity. Letter of intent from a financial institution in case of a consortium again, and CVs of key personnel, and it shouldn't be more than 1 page. We don't want more than 1 page of a resume. And the financial proposals along with the technical proposals and other accompanying documents, जो annexures में हमने पिछली slide में भी जिसका हमने जिक्र किया, they need to be emailed to ichallenge@karandas.com.pk. And all applicants are required to use the same headings as mentioned under the technical proposal slide. If you have forgotten कि क्या थी, if you want the information जो इसके अंदर है in this presentation, all of this information is present in the RFP guidelines which we have uploaded on our website. So you will find all of the relevant heads, the sections जो हमें चाहिए, the headings, plus this email address and all other information related to the financial or technical proposal in those guidelines. So the final presentation. So each applicant is required to make a formal 45-minute PowerPoint presentation, 15 minutes presentation hogi and 30-minute question answer session, which they will present to the advisory committee. The presentations might be virtual or they might be in person. We'll inform the selected applicants once that time comes. The presentation जो आप बना रहे होंगे should only cover the technical proposal and it should not cover the financial proposal. The presentation will be provided to the advisory committee, which will provide them an opportunity to interact with the applicants, gain further clarity on model development or the methodology, gauge the capability of the team, and assess the assumptions used to develop the proposal. So just to give you sort of a structure, abhi EOI stage hua hai. After this, you will be submitting your proposals. Only the shortlisted proposals or the applicants with shortlisted proposals will be eligible to present their presentations to the advisory committee. And from those, after the presentation, phir the awardees will be selected. The presentations are tentatively scheduled to be held between 28th November and 2nd December. We'll go over that again when we approach the key dates. The evaluation criteria. So this is the assessment metric and the weightages that are going to be assigned to each metric upon which we will be scoring your business proposal, right? Evaluation for the RFP. So if any green tech corporation, not-for-profit, SME, financial institution who are working in the thematic areas may apply. The applicant must have demonstrated knowledge and experience in the focal sector in Pakistan. The applicant entity and lead in a consortium should be formally registered entities. Proposed project team must demonstrate a willingness to share learnings with stakeholders, and participating entities should be compliant with relevant regulations of Pakistan. So we've already covered the eligibility criteria. On your right, you will see the assessment metric and the weightages that we have assigned. So relevant experience of the applicant holds a 15% weightage. And the relevant proposal sections जो है ये basically headings हैं जहाँ पे ये specific information cover हो रही होगी under your technical proposal, right? So relevant experience of the applicant, section 7, if you remember, dealt with applicant's profile, and annexures means जो आप resumes आप annexures में add करे होंगे. Profile of the project team holds a 15% weightage. Quality of the proposed methodology for model development and refinement holds a 20% weightage in your overall scoring. Approach to testing of model holds a weightage of 15%. Innovation and sustainability of the approach idea holds a 20% weightage in your overall scoring. And approach to project monitoring, lesson sharing, and risk holds a 15% weightage. So the Green Challenge Fund's advisory committee will be scoring your proposals based on these assessment matrices. And इसकी basis के ऊपर shortlisting होगी for the presentation stage. फिर presentations का भी more or less यही criteria होगा. After the advisory committee shortlists or recommends a certain number of applicants, after the presentation stage, the final recommendations will be presented to Karamdaz's board of director, and wahan se the board of directors will be selecting or will be providing their final approval for the awardees. So the key dates. So we've already passed the EOI submission date of 17th October. Today is 21st, so we're conducting the proposal development workshop. The deadline for the submission of business proposals is 17th November 2022, 5 p.m. And we're quite vigilant on the day and time limit जो हमने रखी हुई है. The tentative dates जिसके ऊपर our presentations दे रहे होगे to the advisory committee is the 28th November till the 22nd December. So during this week, presentations will be scheduled, and the announcement of the final decision will be somewhere in December. It's still a tentative date, so we don't want to mislead anyone by writing a date or phir wo agar puri na hui, so it might be an issue. So these are the tentative dates. Again, these dates are mentioned in the RFP guidelines, jo ke present hai on our website. All information relating to examination, evaluation, comparison, post-qualification of proposals, recommendation of contract award shall not be disclosed to firms or any other persons not officially concerned with the selection process under publication of the contract award. This is a very standard confidentiality clause. And yes, we're done with our presentation. I'll open the floor up for questions. And the structure is that I will be allowing participants to talk. So if you can raise your hand, I'll allow you to unmute yourself, and then we can go on with the question answer session. So please go ahead if you have any questions. Right, so SASPVC Industries has raised their hands. I'm allowing you to talk. Please unmute and go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam.
I hope you are fine. I hope you are fine and good. So my question is that how the transport method will be. Or first, initially, we are supposed to invest, and then we'll get the transport. How will it work? How will the financial model work with Kandas?
Thank you so much. So, जो हमारी disbursement का method है, it is tranche based. Basically होगा ये कि we will be developing a disbursement schedule with you, और उसकी against कुछ milestones होंगे. So पहली tranche के milestones are quite rudimentary. वो standard होते हैं कि आपने contract sign कर दिया, आपने ये documents provide कर दी, this and that, and then you will receive the first tranche. So for example, let's say for argument's sake कि 10 million की award size आपको मिलता है. So the 10 million can be divided into either 2 or 3 tranches of 2 million and then 3 million and then 5 million. और जो tranche 1 होगी उसके separate deliverables होंगे, tranche 2 के separate deliverables होंगे और tranche 3 के separate deliverables होंगे. Right, so that is how essentially this is working. If you still have a further question, Skipper, you can unmute and ask.
Sir, I have one more question.
Yes.
How will it be marked agar innovative is like we are already manufacturing, we are doing recycling in PVC industry. We are recycling PVC, we are importing it, and we are recycling here in the industrial state. We are planning to shift to plastic और प्लास्टिक की रिसाइकलिंग करें, तो उसमें तो इनोवेशन इस तरह होगा कि वी आर गोइंग फॉर पेट बॉटल्स, तो मशीन्स आर ऑलरेडी मेड, और मेरा ये है कि मैं इनफॉर्मल और फॉर्मल सेक्टर से कलेक्शन करके उसको दोबारा वर्जिन मटेरियल में कन्वर्ट करें, तो विल इट बी काउंटेड एज इनोवेशन कि नहीं, क्या इसके मार्क्स लो होंगे? प्लीज इस पे इफ यू कैन थ्रो सम लाइट and you can share with your knowledge with us about it.
Absolutely. So this will be considered as innovative, but it also depends on what's been you bring to this. So as mentioned in the RFP guidelines, हमारे कुछ indicators हैं, development indicators, जिसकी basis के ऊपर we're going to hold a lot of weightage to the proposals. So for example, if your solution is helping save X amount of plastic bottles from being burnt, or X amount of X tons of carbon dioxide being emitted into the air, yeah, X amount of wildlife आप बचा रहे हो because you are using those PET bottles and you're recycling them and you're plugging them back into the system to develop a new product, या you're developing the same product, और वो same product जो है वो कितनी accuracy के साथ बन रही है to a virgin like polymer या in जो एक नई bottle जिस तरह हो सकती है. So all of that will be considered as bringing in innovation or considered as innovative. I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, sir. It was very comprehensive. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ji. Mr. Ehtisham, I will be allowing you to talk. So if you can go ahead and unmute and ask your questions. Thank you. Please go ahead.
अस्सलामुअलैकुम।
Walaikum assalam.
अच्छा, इसके लिए कोई प्रॉपर मतलब नॉलेज वगैरह तो है, लेकिन एजुकेशन है, एजुकेशन मतलब रिक्वायर्ड है जो,
ठीक है,
वो ज़रूरी है या उसके बगैर भी पॉसिबल है?
So हमारी प्रायोरिटी तो यही है कि जो आप जिस थीमेटिक एरिया में या जिस थीम के लिए आप अप्लाई कर रहे हैं उसमें आपका कुछ ना कुछ एक्सपीरियंस होना चाहिए, इन द सेंस के प्रोफेशनल एक्सपीरियंस आपका होना चाहिए. इफ इट इज अगर आपका रेलेवेंट एजुकेशनल एक्सपीरियंस है दैट वुड स्टिल काउंट, लेकिन आपकी जो प्रपोजल होगा या आपका जो सोल्यूशन होगा उसके ऊपर प्राइमरीली हमारी वेटेज डिपेंडेंट होगी. जो आपकी क्वालिफिकेशंस हैं वो ऑफ कोर्स अगर प्रोफेशनली उस तरह नहीं है दैट इज़ फाइन. हमारे जो हमने आपको असेसमेंट मैट्रिक बताया था उसमें हमने एक स्पेसिफिक वेटेज दी हुई है टू योर प्रोफेशनल एक्सपीरियंस जो कि 15 या 20% है. लेकिन बाकी अगर आप जगहों पे अगर आपका प्रपोज सोल्यूशन, अगर आपका डिज़ाइन जो है सोल्यूशन का उसके एग्जीक्यूशन में if it's very accurate and it's very effective, तो फिर we will still consider it.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Zakir, I'll be allowing you to speak, so you may unmute and ask your question. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
जी, Dr. Zakir from University of Baltistan, Skardu.
जी, क्या नाम आपका?
Two questions. First is that we have an idea which is very innovative and it is quite virgin, you can say.
ठीक है.
But we need assurance of its rights, the idea rights and patent rights. If Karandas can ensure that, whether Karandas can ensure that, one thing. And secondly, on all publications and reports, the university has to be acknowledged for this idea and things.
ठीक है, ओके. सो अगर मैंने सही समझा है, आपका पहला क्वेश्चन है कि जो प्राइमरी राइट है आपकी प्रपोजल की वो यूनिवर्सिटी के पास ही रहे, नंबर 1, और नंबर 2 जितनी भी पब्लिकेशंस और रिपोर्ट्स करंदाज करता है इन द फ्यूचर उसमें यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम हो. यही आपके 2 सवाल है?
Acknowledgement of the principal investigator with university.
बिल्कुल. So सबसे I'll take it step by step. आप जो आपका वो है प्रपोजल है उसकी राइट्स आपके पास ही रहेंगी. The applicant will have the rights, but we should also have the right to ask for information related to the project whenever it is needed. And number 2 के अगर हम लोग इसको कहीं पे या किसी के सामने हम लोग प्रेजेंट करते हैं as one of our solutions जो हमने फंड किया है, राइट, अंडर द ग्रीन चैलेंज फंड, हमें वो भी अलाउड होगा. रेस्ट अश्योर्ड किसी भी पब्लिकेशन, किसी भी रिपोर्ट में it will be explicitly mentioned कि this solution is by the University of Gilgit-Baltistan and not by Karanda. So वो हम लोग as a funder होंगे, लेकिन जो जिसका solution है उसका ही नाम आएगा. So
Intellectual
उसमें you
rights.
can be rest. जी बिल्कुल.
अच्छा, second ये जो proposal format है, will that be emailed or will it be available on a website?
So the proposal format is already available in the guidelines जो मैंने mention किए हैं on our website. I can write down the website in the chat box ताकि anyone who wants to access it वो अभी बेशक copy करके और वो check कर ले. Let me just do that right now ताकि
we need to
save
start
all.
the proposal writing phase.
I understand. I understand completely. So मैंने website का link है वो chat box में डाल दिया है, and it should be available to be viewed by everyone. So
Hello.
if you Gigi, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, so अगर आप इसकी बिल्कुल नीचे जाएंगे, let me also just share my screen real quick ताकि जितने भी यहाँ पे लोग हैं वो भी इसको देख सकें. So this is the website जिसका मैंने आपको लिंक दिया है. You will scroll down और आपको यहाँ पे टाइमलाइंस भी मिल जाएंगी, and applicants must read the guidelines here. यहाँ पे आप क्लिक करेंगे, it will open up the document जहाँ पे सारी ये लिखी हुई है. अगर वहाँ नीचे आपको ना मिले, how to participate के अंडर भी यहाँ पे guidelines mentioned है. Okay, so once you open it, you will see all of the guidelines that you need to see.
Yeah, proposal format is part of that guideline.
Proposal format is part of the guidelines. Ji.
Okay. ठीक है.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zakir. If you have no further questions, I will move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Mr. Namwar, I'd like you to please go ahead and ask your questions. And just a request, if I've already answered your questions, या अगर आपका कोई सवाल था जो कि किसी ने already पूछ लिया, and if it's been answered, I would request if you could lower your hand ताकि जिनके नए सवाल हैं, I can focus on them more. So, G, please go ahead.
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम.
I'm so sorry for
No, it's completely fine.
Sorry.
Acha. Thank you for the comprehensive presentation. I just have a question regarding the funding support. So, आप जब overview दे रहे थे, जो पहले EOI का document आया हुआ था, उसमें एक और additional चीज थी, which was grant support for non-profits and for universities. So
Right.
is that no longer a part of the project? I'm just interested in knowing about this particular element.
जी बिल्कुल. So I'll tell you the methodology or ideology behind जो grants हैं. You have very good questions. You've raised a very good question. So हमने last year we provided some of the awardees grant support, and वो उसी case में था because उनका जो proposal था, it was very experimental in nature, और वो ऐसा था which was helping the public good. तो उसके ऊपर हम लोग कोई commercialization possible नहीं थी, right? So coincidentally ये हुआ ये कि it was one of the academic institutes जिनको ये मिला था. So we understand कि academic sector के अंदर it's difficult to commercialize a specific proposal. So उसके अंदर we can look into, it's not a given or it's not a rule कि इनको ही हम लोग grants provide करेंगे. It could also be a debt, a very sub-commercial pricing debt जो हम लोग दे सकते हैं. But जो आपको type of funding, the amount of funding, it all specifically depends upon जो आपका solution है. So if the solution is experimental in nature, if it's helping the greater good, तो उसके अंदर we can look into having some form of grant support. Lekin it is not a given. It primarily depends on the board's recommendation, the advisory committee, and the proposed solution जो आपने दिया है.
ठीक है. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Khurram, if you can go ahead, I will allow you to speak. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much for the very informative session. I'm representing Private Limited. It's a private company registered in Lahore. Hasnat has responded to a couple of my questions already, so I'll be very brief. In the expression of interest document, at some point it says that Karandas will be providing technical assistance through concessional finance, debt or with cover or the combination of two, as well as the grants. So I just wanted to clarify this point that on what grounds should we actually request for one specific need, or it is the board who will decide that whether it is going to be a grant or concessional finance? And also, could you please just quickly comment on the financing models that are mentioned in the funding support model? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Khurram Sahab, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, आपने सबसे पहली चीज पूछी है कि किन cases does the applicant have to request for a specific type of funding, and number two, you have asked कि किस तरीके से financing हो रही होगी, how will the amount be dispersed? Is that the question, or if I'm missing something, आप मुझे please correct करते हैं.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. This is what my question is.
Thank you so much. So, जो funding की type है, so I'll be quite clear कि primarily it is a debt which is going to be very sub-commercially priced. ठीक है? So primary आपका ये है. Secondary, in case of, as I mentioned in my previous question जो पूछा हुआ था, if it's a very experimental sort of a solution, yeah, if it's something जो कि public good को या public need को address कर रही है, but cannot be commercialized in any way, उस case में a specific portion or the entire funding award can be considered as a grant. So the primary sort of decision-making factor इसमें is the board. The advisory committee is just going to provide its recommendations to the board, और फिर board ये decide करेगा. So applicant ने सिर्फ अपना financial proposal देना है, और उसमें सिर्फ ये लिखना है कि उन्होंने पैसे जो हैं कहाँ लगाने हैं, how much funding is required, what support is required, and what will be financed, right? And then the board will decide, and the advisory committee की कोई recommendations होंगी कि इसको हम लोग as completely as a grant लेके हम लोग चलें, इसका कुछ portion grant रखें, कुछ portion हम लोग इसका debt रखें, या हम लोग primarily debt रखें. So regardless, however, जिस तरह भी होगा, it will be communicated to the applicant, shortlisted applicant, at the stage when we get to that specific question. And then secondly, जो disbursement हो रही होगी, as I mentioned before, कि it will be in the form of tranches. For example, अगर आपकी 10 million की एक award size आपका हुआ है confirm, so the tranche could either be 2, or it could be 3, or it could be 4. It depends primarily आपका solution कैसा है. So 2 million की एक tranche हो सकती है, 3 million की एक tranche हो सकती है, and the remaining 5 million could be dispersed as a separate third tranche, right? And the disbursements can only be provided once the specific deliverables उसके against पूरे हो गए. For example, I'll give you an example. पहली tranche के deliverables are quite standard, कि contract sign हुआ हुआ, जो relevant documentation है वो पूरी है, this and that, ये सब चीजें हैं, you get your first tranche. And I would like to mention here कि जितनी भी करंदाज की funding होगी, वो एक separate account में आएगी. So the shortlisted or the selected applicant will have to open up a designated bank account, और उसके अंदर आ रही होगी. So once that account is made, all of the standard operational चीजें पूरी होगी, आपको पहली tranche मिल जाती है, और उस पहली tranche के against you will have to perform some activities जो कि of course आपके proposed solution के साथ coincide करेगा. For example, कोई आपने market analysis करना है, baseline report आपने लिखनी है, कोई consultant को on board करना है, उसके against वो tranche utilize हो जाएगी. You will provide us the deliverables or the means of verification कि इन चीजों के ऊपर आपने tranche असल में इस्तेमाल कर दी है, and these are the outcomes, and then the second tranche will be released. और फिर second tranche के against कोई और deliverables होंगे, और फिर third, so on and so forth. So that is basically the mechanism of the disbursement. I hope that answers your question. And if you have
thank you very much. I just have one follow-up question on what you explained. So I'll just take it the liberty to ask you. So if the board decides to go for a debt model, So I just wanted to know a little bit about the debt, the terms to settle that debt. How does it work afterwards?
So
Mohsen,
it's
if I can respond to it, please.
absolutely, Hasnat, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Khurram Saab. Very pertinent questions. Just let us clarify here. The organization has certain considerations and criterias in place. For all participants, our first preference of instrument is concessional debt. We do not want to burden any solution or any bidder. At the same time, we do not want to, fund the solutions which are not sustainable on their own. Our idea and considerations, even for us and for the board, is to fund those solutions जो post experimentation stage sustainable or commercially viable or that's the entire consideration. In that, if you happen to see, for example, we give you a more recent example, quite a few solutions जो private sector के अंदर operate कर रहे थे, they needed investors to scale up their ideas or even test their ideas, but they could not get the investors. What we did is extremely subsidized rates के ऊपर, perhaps without any collateral or minimal collaterals, we funded those solutions. And now they are marketable, they are generating enough revenues, sustainable, or conveniently they can repay the financing that they got for their funding. So benefit for the idea and for the solution itself was that it became sustainable. It is operational post Karandaz exit, or they are now scaling up. Exactly same principle for this idea. Even for the solutions which are translated into public goods, for example, efficient water waste management के ऊपर हमने एक solution fund किया, has an element of a development finance in it. So a public good is developed towards the end of the solution, लेकिन उसके बाद जो उसकी utility है, the beneficiaries are the users, which are farmers in this particular case, will be somehow repaying that to the principal owner. So one, that is public good that is developed up to a certain level, but then after that it has to be sustainable and self-sufficient. That is the entire idea. We do not want to fund any solution which post Karandaz or post project implementation exit, the solution dies itself. That's the basic principle. Consideration, which component should be grant, which component should be loan, as I spoke earlier, our first preference would be an extremely concessional debt with minimum collateral requirements. Still, if any organization feels that there is a need for grant, or perhaps that sometimes becomes part of the consultations and negotiations towards the end of the decision, we do not qualify our decision based on whether it should be grant funded or it should be cancel funded. We just explained our preferences of investments. I hope that answers.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
G. Mohsen, please.
Thank you so much, Hasnat, for stepping in. Mr. Khurram, if you have no further questions, we'll move forward. Dr. Aisha, I'll be allowing you to speak, so please unmute your mic and go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for a very informative session. I think it was extremely helpful for all of us to sort of develop the next to the next stage of the project. Just a couple of observations. One, I've been looking through the link that you sent. It just has the guidelines to developing an EOI, but I cannot find the guidelines to developing the actual proposal. So, I mean, I've clicked on the link and gone to the website. It does give an EOI proposal, but I can't. Yeah. So number two, I just also wanted to ask you this question, which may or may not be very relevant because I'm an academic, really. So I wanted to ask if the innovation that we're proposing is not something that is, like reinventing the wheel, but it is something that's already there, but we're trying to market it better, maybe improve the quality of the product in a way that it has a higher impact on sustainable development. Will that also be counted as part of this whole fund?
Okay. Thank you so much for firstly pointing out that the guidelines are not there. We will fix that as soon as this session is over. Secondly, yes, that will still be considered as eligible round. Any sort of a solution, just go, you're trying to refine it, you're trying to scale it better, scale it up to more locations, or if you're trying to make it more commercially viable, all of those will still be considered as eligible under this challenge round. I hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Mohammed Irfan Saab, I will be allowing you to talk, so if you can unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for providing this important information regarding the technical proposal. So I have two questions. One is basically, is the abstract of previous grant proposal award you have basically in the round one available to look that, know that what exactly the previous projects will do and how we can, in a new proposal, can add value in that idea as well. And secondly, I have read in the expression of interest document that if the proposal is related to the public good, like efficient water management. So if the idea is basically based on the experiment pilot projects, experiment results of to test the pilot. So what is the total timeline to implement the project? 3 years or 1 year?
ठीक है, thank you so much. सबसे पहला आपका सवाल related to abstracts of previous awards. No, we cannot provide that. Those are confidential documents. However, we do have a video uploaded on the website, जिसका मैंने आपको link नीचे दिया हुआ है. So you can watch that to better gauge कि solution क्या था and what exactly we looked for and what exactly they provided. But rest assured, उनके जो previous awardees थे, उनके जो proposals they were based on the same sections and the same headings जो हमने technical proposal में provide किए हुए हैं. Secondly, the duration of the project, कितना लंबा उसका pilot होना चाहिए, कितना लंबा उसका execution होना चाहिए, it is going to depend primarily on the solution. So अगर आपका solution ऐसा है which requires a longer pilot stage, then that would be provided. If it's something जिसकी execute pilot stage छोटा होगा लेकिन execution time ज़्यादा हम लोग उसको रखना चाह रहे हैं, वो होगा. So it depends primarily कि आपका solution क्या है और आपका proposed timeline उसकी कैसी है. Because जो technical proposal है उसमें timelines का भी जिक्र है under the proposed solution जो आपकी approach है. So उसमें आपको timelines mention करनी होंगी. So जो आपका solution है, what you think should be the timelines, आप वो वहाँ पे mention करें. If that requires any sort of negotiation at a later stage, that will be considered. But अभी currently the solution की जो timeline है, it depends primarily on your type of the proposal जो आप दे रहे हो और जो उसका अपना आपके ज़हन में जो pilot or execution time है वो.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your questions. Thank you so much. Mr. Khurram, if you have another question, I'll allow you to speak. अगर नहीं है तो I would request कि आप अपना you can lower your hand.
I'm sorry, I had just not noticed that I have still my hand raised. Sorry.
No problem at all. That is fine. Mohammed Shahzeb, if you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Thank you so much for providing such platform. So I have a question. Like we at Green App showed, providing the eco-friendly products such as bamboo products like bamboo toothbrush.
Okay.
So currently in Pakistan, there is not such kind of facility to manufacture the products, but that's why we are planning to make such kind of products in Pakistan. So can we do this in such scale, like within this platform?
ठीक है. So as long as आपका जो solution है या आपका so you're making bamboo से आपकी जो products बना रहे हैं, if that in any way किसी भी तरीके से अगर it relates to the themes जो हमारी हैं इस साल की, which is plastic waste management, water management, medical waste management and air quality, अगर वो किसी भी तरीके से आपका solution इन चारों में से किसी एक theme को address कर रहा है, then you can go ahead and you will be eligible to send your proposal. If it's not relating to anything of that sort, then I'm afraid usme phir you will not be eligible. but अगर उसका कोई impact in 4 themes में किसी एक theme में आ रहा है, then you can go ahead and you can send your proposal.
Basically, our main vision and purpose is to overcome the plastic pollution challenges such as हमारे जो टूथब्रश होते हैं plastic के, we're planning to eliminate them. So in Pakistan, so that's why in Pakistan we have to import the products from China. So that's why the prices are high. So we are going to like launch and manufacture these products. So I have just concern about that. Like we can do this in such scale. Like this is not a small scale. This is a big scale.
G, no, I understand. But you are eligible and you can do that. Usme, there's no restrictions to it. So we'll welcome you to send in your proposal, Pir. Thank you so much. Miss Najma Falak, I'll allow you to unmute your mic if you can go ahead and ask your question. Miss Najma, are you there? If you're speaking, aapka mic mute kyun pe hai? If you would unmute your mic and ask your question. Okay, we'll circle back to her baat mein. Dr. Rabi, if you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, Dr. Rabia Zafar from Earth and Space Innovation Tech. Thank you for all the questions and this presentation session. So I just want to ask one major question about the consortium partners. If the consortium partners are from the government side, then what would the Karandas expect that how much they would participate in that proposal or project? Because there is always like a percentage of like in the form of the the trenches or something के जिसमें हम ये कह सकते हैं कि हाँ partner हमें इतना donor agency के तौर पे या partner के तौर पे इतना participate करेगा. So I'm basically asking about because this is the private company and if I'm taking on board the government department, then what would be their contribution? First question. Second question is that you said that we have to have like a separate proposal for each theme, but the fact is that there is always an integrated solutions and integrated theme work. So is it possible to put forward a single proposal addressing 2 or 3 themes together? This is my second question. Third question is there any limit that we have to follow? Like we have to follow, like, is it 1 million, 2 million financial proposal or costing that we can mention in our proposal? So these are the 3 questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hasnat, if you can answer these questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer, Dr. Rabi, I'll answer the last part of your question first. We expect from all the proposals to be clear about their proposals financing requirements. Essentially, this means that there is no limit towards the participation. Ke Karandas kitna participate karega? Yeah. It entirely depends upon the solution, with caveats that it has to be rational, realistic, overly stated nahi hona chahiye. That one part. Second part, when it comes to the government participation, we have more recently entered into one arrangement with similar consortium jahan pe government ki institutions involved hain. There are 2 considerations in that. Number 1 is the intellectual property, and number 2 is if it is going through in the form of concessional debt, perhaps we might ask, and depends upon the solution again, we might ask collaterals to certain documents. That's one part. So if the consortium partners are comfortable, it's perfectly fine with us. Second, with the government, we understand there are certain changes within the government. Log aate hain, chale jate hain, yeah, they move to another role. The continuity of the project sometimes is challenged. If that is covered through any sort of arrangements between the government and the consortium partners, whoever they are, I think we are comfortable to proceed with financing that agreement. Principles are fundamental. principles are that it should the solution must address the themes that are given. If it is a public good, it has some element of benefiting the private sector, which is अगर कोई भी solution है वो private sector की तरफ से scale up होना चाहिए. And if it is a private sector project जहाँ पे government की policy level पे या any other form of intervention is needed, it has to be scalable and commercially viable towards the end of the project. I hope that explains your question.
Dr. Rabi, if you have any follow-up questions, you can go ahead and ask. We are unable to hear you. I think आपने अपना हाथ भी नीचे कर दिया, so we can move forward. Shazib Ali, I'll be allowing you to unmute your mic. So please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much, Muhsin Saab. This is Shahbaz Ali here from Agribusiness Support Fund. Actually, I have three questions. The first one is that can we add any other partner right now after the submission of EOI in our consortium? And the second question, and the second and third question is related to finance. I mean that will there be any specific audit of the funds by the Karandaz, of any specific financial audit of the funds released by the Karandaz by Karandaz themselves? And do we have to submit any insurance guarantee or performance guarantee? Yeah, we have to sign any performance bond with the Karandaz as we will, as the awardee will receive their first tranche as their advance of their financial proposal. Okay. Thank you.
Shahbaz Saab, I'm sorry, आपकी आवाज break हो गई थी on the first question. If you could repeat that, I got your second and third question.
The first question is that can we have add any partner with us after the submission of EOI? I mean, right after at this stage, as we have submitted our EOIs. So can we add any partner right now in our consortium?
Okay, so I'll answer your questions point-wise. Number one, yes, you can still add any partner even if you've submitted the EOI. आप उनका proposal में you can still add that partner, और उनका आपने clearly mention कर देना है कि वो कौन सी responsibilities ले रहे होंगे और आपकी क्या responsibilities होंगी, right? So you can do that. Secondly, yes, audit हमारा होता है, but it's हम लोग एक third party से audit अपने कराते हैं of the funds that are being utilized. It's usually a requirement. एक जगह हमारी contractual requirement होती है कि आपका एक annual audit होगा just to check whether the funds जो हम लोगों ने provide किए हैं are being utilized for the same purpose जिसके लिए वो dispersed हुए थे या नहीं. So yes. Thirdly, no, there isn't any performance guarantee. उसकी कोई submission की हमारी requirement नहीं होती. So a very short answer, no, we don't require any such guarantees.
Thank you very much. But the audit fee the cost of the audit fee will be borne by the awardee. I mean that we have to pay that fees.
Yes, but that is also accounted for in the funding जो हम लोग आपको देते हैं. So that is usually accounted for. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Hamid Latif Saab, I will be allowing you to unmute your mic. अगर आप बोल सकें.
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम. We're talking from Textile Testing International, TTI. This is actually Anik. Hamid Saab is our CEO. Can you kindly take us to the evaluation criteria slide? And I just had a question from there.
Absolutely. Give me a couple of seconds. मैं वहाँ पे कर लेता हूँ.
Thank you.
I hope it's visible.
Just a moment, I think. Yeah. So essentially what I wanted to ask was about the approach to testing of model. So जो testing है और implementation है उसमें अगर आप थोड़ा सा elaborate कर सकें कि किसको testing कहेंगे और किसको implementation कहेंगे, because we were thinking of something which was essentially the whole idea was to be the testing, and then once the project is over we implement it. I don't want to go into the specifics right now.
Understood. Hasnat, do you want to take up this question?
This is relevant and it's pertinent question. Thank you for asking this. Generally, testing of the model is applicable to the solutions which are relatively new. Pilot stage पे किए जाते हैं and then a small scale pilot is run and after that उसकी testing चलती है and then it is scaled up. We have, without assuming what your solution is, at what stage of development is, if it is already tested, perhaps this section might not be relevant and the advisory committee might look at from the scaling up perspective.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Thank you so much. I will stop right here. If there's any more questions from any of the attendees, you may go ahead and ask. I see SAS has also raised their hands. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, sir, for taking my question once again. Sir, my question is that if there's some involvement of importing some machines from different countries, so will it be allowed in the time, and what will be the time limit? If you kindly tell me, what will be the time limit of implementation of the project?
Again, as I mentioned, the duration of the project depends specifically and entirely on the proposed solution. So अगर आपका proposal इस तरीके का है, again, as I mentioned, कि अगर उसका pilot scale लंबा होना चाहिए या implementation stage ज़्यादा लंबा होना चाहिए, pilot छोटा होना चाहिए, it all depends कि how you have sort of designed your solution and how you think कि इसकी implementation इस तरह होनी चाहिए. So duration जो है, it's entirely dependent on the project. I'll give you a very short example. पिछले साल we had a couple of solutions जिनके 2 साल की durations थी for of the entire project और कुछ थे जिनके 3 साल है. Right, so उनका इसलिए फर्क है because उनके proposals इस तरह के थे, उनके solutions इस तरह के थे, right? So that it all depends on the solution.
Oh, sir, one more thing. If I'm importing it, so initially I am supposed to pay up for the machines and then it will be reimbursed. किस तरह होगा वो please अगर थोड़ा सा बता दें आप. If I need to import something in the process, तो वो किस तरह करेंगे मैं? Kindly आप उस पे मुझे if you can throw light on that.
Right, so इसलिए हमने जिक्र किया था कि एक implementation schedule पूरा होगा जिसके अंदर timelines mentioned होगी और उस timelines के अंदर milestones होंगे. So for example, अगर आपका एक milestone है कि आपने import करानी है कोई चीज, कोई machinery है जो आपने import करानी है, कोई raw material जो आपने import कराना है, so that should be accounted for in the tranche. So वो tranche जब हम लोग release करेंगे उसी के through ही फिर आप जो हैं वो import कराओगे. So अगर tranche में ऊपर नीचे हो जाए, if there's a delay in the disbursement of the tranche, then of course it's on reimbursable basis. लेकिन ideally the schedule इस तरीके से बनता है where you account for कि मैंने for example December के महीने में यहाँ से मैंने ये चीज import करानी है, मैंने raw material import करनी है, मैंने machine import करनी है, ताकि जो आपको tranche disperse हो रही होगी उसकी जो आपकी procurement या import की cost है वो उस tranche में cover हो जाए. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you so much. Mr. Itza Rana, if you can go ahead and ask your question. Mr. Itza, please unmute your mic and ask your question if you have any. Right, we'll circle back to Mr. Itza in a bit. Mohammed Shazib Saab, if you can go ahead and ask your question.
Sir, thank you so much. जैसे मेरा एक क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो हमने EUI में अपना आइडिया प्रोवाइड किया है, तो जो हमारा प्रपोजल में आइडिया होगा, प्रपोजल बेस्ड ऑन EUI, इसके साथ अलाइन करना चाहिए, इसके साथ डिफरेंट भी हो सकते हैं.
Ideally उसको अलाइन होना चाहिए. It should be aligned with the EUI that you have sent. अगर आपको लग रहा है कि EUI में जो आपका जो solution था उससे बेहतर आप provide कर सकते हैं, and if it's something जो आपको लग रहा है कि एक आप improved solution provide कर सकते हैं, then you can go ahead and write that in your proposal. As I mentioned, EUI का submit होना या ना होना does not qualify you to submit the proposal. Agar aapne nahi diya hua EOI, that is fine. You can still submit your proposal. So considering that methodology, you can submit an entirely new proposal. That would be fine by us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll take a couple of more questions, maximum 2. Agar kisi aur ke koi sawal hai, please go ahead and ask. If there's no question, then we can close this presentation. SAS PVC, please go ahead and ask your question.
सर मैंने एक बात ये डिस्कस करनी थी कि जो आपने भी भेजी है इसके लिए, मुझे जो आपने लिंक भेजा था वो EOI का था, उसमें RFP के लिए रिक्वायरमेंट्स नहीं है. But luckily I actually have the last year's RFP guideline. Can I use that?
I would recommend you not use that. Right after this presentation, the RFP guidelines will be uploaded. So by close business, by 5 p.m. आप देख लीजिएगा, you will see the RFP guidelines. It will be updated on our website.
ठीक है सर. और एक और क्वेश्चन था मेरा ये कि इसमें when I was filling EOI तो उसमें पार्टनर का था, but we are sole proprietor company SME. तो उसके अंदर ये जो पार्टनर है, लाइक अ पार्टनर विद whom we will be involved किसी भी तरीके से इस प्रोसेस में, प्रोक्योरमेंट वगैरह के लिए, कोई मशीन के या किस तरह, ये वो वाले पार्टनर हैं या वो जो कंसोर्टियम पार्टनरशिप है, ये उसकी बात हो रही थी? काइंडली अगर ये भी आप मुझे क्लैरिफाई कर दें.
So उसमें mention हुआ है कि implementing partners आपने list down करने हैं. So implementing partners are any of the partners that will be involved in the execution of your proposed solution, right? So आपका जो भी solution है उसकी execution में, उसकी implementation में किसी और की capability आपको इस्तेमाल करनी पड़ रही है, then you can write that. Of course, the partners can change आगे जाके भी, because अभी आपने एक infancy के अंदर एक EOI submit किया proposal में, शायद आप when you do more of your research and when you're developing the proposal, you might need more, आपको वो शायद आपको खुद feel हो कि you need to write more partners, so you can do that. So any entity which is going to be involved in the successful execution of your proposed solution, उसका मेंशन होता है फिर एज इम्प्लीमेंटिंग पार्टनर.
सर और एक और बात, अगर मैं प्लास्टिक वेस्ट में टारगेट करता हूँ, देयर आर डिफरेंट वेज इसकी रिसाइकलिंग हो सकती है, तो उसमें अगर इनिशियली अगर मैं अपने RFP में कुछ चीज प्रपोज करता हूँ, लेकिन बाद में मैं मशीनरी, बिकॉज देयर आर डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स ऑफ मशीन, देयर आर डिफरेंट सॉल्यूशन, डिफरेंट मैकेनिज्म टू डू रिसाइकलिंग, बट जिस मटेरियल को मैं प्रपोज करूंगा फिर मुझे उसी पे स्टिक रहना पड़ेगा? प्लीज अगर ये मुझे बता दें.
आइडियली यही है कि जो चीज, बिकॉज वी आर फंडिंग द सोल्यूशन जो आपने प्रोवाइड हमें किया हुआ है, राइट? सो आइडियली हम लोग यही चाहेंगे कि जो चीज आपने उसके अंदर लिखी हुई है बिजनेस प्रपोजल के अंदर, वही चीज हम लोग उसको सपोर्ट कर रहे होंगे. सो बाद में जाके इफ एनी एडिशनल थिंग इज कमिंग अप, उसके ऊपर यू विल हैव टू हैव परमिशन फ्रॉम करंदाज इफ वी कैन डू दिस, और इस मटेरियल को हम यूज कर सकते हैं या नहीं. सो आई वुड रिकमेंड यू कि अगर आपका ब्रॉड सोल्यूशन वही है कि आपने प्लास्टिक वेस्ट को recycle करना है और you have to make something different, try to keep whatever outcome you have slightly open, and the material that you're using slightly open as well. लेकिन be very clear in the solution जो आप provide कर रहे हो कि आप A और B को इस्तेमाल करके C पे किस तरह पहुंच रहे हो. You have to be very very specific on that and very clear on that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. If there are no further questions, we'll formally wrap up this session again. Okay, we'll take one more question from Josefa. Please go ahead. Last question for the workshop.
Hello. So, Mohsen, like you've mentioned कि हम लोग ने बड़ा clear रहना है कि A और B को use करके हम लोग C तक कैसे पहुंच रहे हैं. So, when we are speaking of A and B, so ये जो A and B हैं, ये हमारे different implementing partners भी हो सकते हैं?
No. So उसमें because the context was very different, उसमें हम लोग materials की बात कर रहे थे, plastic के different types की जिस तरह वो बात कर रहे थे. So उसमें of course you can have some sort of leverage, लेकिन implementing partners have to be very clear, and because that shows कि how well thought out your solution is. So आपने you have to be very clear कि ये मेरा proposal है, this is the individual that I'll be using, or this is the entity that I'll be using to execute this, या यहाँ से मैं अपना raw material ले रहा हूँगा और ये मैं execute कर रहा हूँगा और execute मैं इसके through कर रहा हूँगा. So that would show कि you are clear in your thought process, and you're also able to sort of clearly demonstrate to us what the solution is going to be, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, just a couple of more questions, please, if you could allow me. So
Of course.
what I meant was कि part A and part B and the outcome is part C. Okay, so
Right.
हमारा जो implementing partner है, implementing partner A is supplying us with some part and implementing partner B is supplying us with another part. And उन दोनों को combine करके हमारा एक output निकलता है, that is output, part C हमारे कैलियन से. So
Right.
इससे related मेरा question था.
ठीक है, सही है. As I mentioned, it's so you can be slightly open-ended in the inputs and that you are using, but you will have to be very clear regarding the implementing partners जो आप इस्तेमाल कर रहे होगे for the solution. So it needs to be very, उसका एक framework आपका बहुत clear होना चाहिए कि यहाँ से मैं part A से मैं ये raw material उठाऊंगा, part B से मैं machinery लूंगा. I will be utilizing both of them to provide an outcome which is part C. और part C को मैं फिर इस तरीके से commercialize कर रहा हूँ, इस तरीके से उसको मैं sell करूँगा. This is my model, right? So there are certain things that you have to be very crisp about and very clear about, and one of them is what partners you will be utilizing to execute your project.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Mohsen.
Thank you so much. With that, we will wrap up the development workshop. Again, thank you so much for everyone who joined in. If you have any further questions, you can just go to Karandaz's website and you will see our contact number. वहाँ पे आप मुझे, you can contact our office, and more often than not, I will be the individual who will be answering your queries. The RFP guidelines will be uploaded within the next hour, but just to be on the safe side, close of business तक आप हमारी वेबसाइट पे जो जिसका मैंने लिंक दिया है वहां से जाके आप गाइडलाइंस को व्यू कर सकते हैं, एक्सेस कर सकते हैं. The key dates are also mentioned, but just a reminder, 17th November is the deadline to submit your RFP or your business proposal. And good luck. I hope this session was useful. Again, if you have any questions, you can just contact Karandaz's office and we will address your questions. Thank you so much.
Just
and
one minute, Mohsen, please. I have a question from one of the participants, Mr. Salman. I'll write back to you. We have to close it down right here, but we'll respond to your queries.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Mohsen, please.
Thank you so much, and we'd like to formally thank you and take care. Allah Hafiz.